This video is going to be a little bit different, but I'm still going to make it relevant to the Irish economy and also the Irish property market. In today's video, I'm going to be discussing the US election and who will be the best candidate to win from an Irish perspective, either Trump or Biden. So to set the stage, for most of you who have watched some of my videos in the past, you will know that I'm a property consultant based here in Dublin, and most of my videos focus on the real estate market. But what you may not actually know is that my sister lives in Washington, DC, a block or two away from the Supreme Court and Congress. And my partner, Christine, is from America, and she has family members in New York and New Jersey. So she will need a bottle of wine to help calm her nerves this evening. US politics is something I've actually been following for a number of years now, and I might be a little bit biased within this video because generally speaking I will work away with CNN on in the background, but I'm approaching this video from an Irish person's point of view as well as an Irish business owner. So quickly, from a world point of view, Trump has left the World Health Organization. He has left the Paris Accord. He has deliberately not supported the UN and NATO. He has criticised Europe consistently, and he supported Brexit. All of these things actually help benefit the likes of China and Russia. Biden, on the other hand, has stated that he will rejoin the World Health Organization. He'll also rejoin the Paris Accord, and he will support NATO and the UN. You might ask, well, what does all that mean from an Irish point of view? Well, first off, I do think climate change is an important issue and definitely needs to be addressed no matter what country you're in. World peace is also a goal that everyone should be working towards, so therefore the UN and NATO are actually good bodies to support. I think COVID-19 has underlined the importance of a World Health Organization, and defunding them right now is possibly the worst decision to make, and actually what they really need is more funds. But closer to home, Trump has supported Brexit. Don't forget, he has supported Brexit. He is also very keen for the US and the UK to agree a trade deal, which could have negative impacts here in Ireland. It's also important to remember that Trump has stated to Leo Varadkar at a recent meeting last year that he doesn't understand the North, he doesn't understand the Good Friday Agreement, and he also asked Leo, why doesn't he not just build a wall? Biden, on the other hand, has confirmed that no US-UK trade deal will happen if it in any way puts the Good Friday Agreement at risk. So let's talk about trade. Trump has consistently said America first, which is a good aspiration for any US president, but perhaps it's not the best outcome from an Irish perspective. Trump has also kind of criticised Ireland in recent months, and Ireland is definitely on Trump's radar. In a recent TV interview, he was asked about China. He said, it's not just China, have a look at Ireland. Ireland make all of our drugs. Everyone makes our drugs except us, and we're bringing that supply chain back home. Pharma is a huge industry here in Ireland and is incredibly important to our economy. And it has been incredibly important to our economy in recent months, particularly in lockdown, and has contributed massive amounts of money to our tax base and our GDP. A recent Congress report suggests that Ireland in 2019 exported 36 billion of medical supplies and pharmaceuticals to the US in 2019. Compare that to China, where China exported 21 billion to the US. So that's a big difference. Ireland in last year in 2019 exported 36 billion, and China actually only exported 21 billion. CSO figures from this March actually suggest that pharmaceuticals surged massively in exports here in Ireland to 15 billion in March alone. I'm not quite sure it will be just China, China, China that we hear from Trump. He could turn his attentions to Ireland, and we could be hearing a negative Irish chant back at us from Trump as well anytime soon. Trump has tried to get US companies back to the US in recent years. It was one of his election promises back in 2016. In 2017, he did try, he made an attempt. That attempt wasn't that successful at the time. However, with US unemployment so low at the moment, there is definitely going to be further attempts to drag US companies back to the US. A recent report from the White House suggests that there's a strategy in play for reducing corporation tax from 21.5% down to 10.5% for US-based companies who want to relocate back to America. So that would certainly have an impact on Ireland, Irish property, Irish GDP and our tax base if US-based companies here in Ireland decided to relocate back to America because of a generous tax, corporation tax in America if they returned back home. That will definitely have a knock-on impact to Ireland's GDP and our tax base and ultimately our property prices as well. Biden has suggested as well that it will be part of his mandate to get US companies back to the US and employing US people. But I don't think he's going to be aggressive. However, that said, with the impacts of COVID-19 and high unemployment rates in the US, I believe both Trump and Biden will have an aggressive stance on this and trying to get companies back employing US citizens in America. So that will definitely have an impact, but I just don't see Biden being as aggressive as Trump. But anyone who actually thinks that it will be a good thing for all these US companies going back to the US from international bases could provide more jobs in the US and more opportunities for foreign nationals to travel to the US and work in the US, I think you could have to rethink that if Trump wins this election. Senior advisor Stephen Miller, the person behind Trump's headline immigration policies, is said to have a drawer full of executive orders ready to be signed in a shock and awe style if Trump wins the re-election. So that statement or that information has come from a former head of Homeland Security, basically saying there's a wish list of policies for immigration or restricting immigration into the US ready to be signed, but it was deemed that those policies were too hardline for a president looking to be re-elected. Under Trump, it won't just be the Mexican border that's closed to people. We've seen it in COVID that Trump has cancelled nearly all visa applications, including the J1, and I don't imagine Trump will be opening up those visa applications anytime soon, regardless of COVID. This will make it harder for Irish employees to go over and work in the US. It will also make it harder for Irish businesses who want to expand into the US and send their employees over to the US to either market or expand their product. So what does all this mean for the property market here in Ireland? Well, in the short term, I don't think it really matters who wins. I think if either of them win, it's not going to have a massive impact on the property market here in Ireland in the short term. However, I view Ireland as a very open economy. And if the US continues to close itself off to Europe and to Ireland and other places around the world, Ireland will suffer because a huge amount of our trade and international investments actually come from the US. And if that slows down, that will definitely have an impact on the property market here in Ireland in the long term. And Ireland will then have to look for other alternative markets to export to or attract capital from. But I do think Ireland and Dublin have a very strong outlook long term, no matter who wins the US presidency, Biden or Trump. I think Ireland has a lot going for it long term. So whoever wins, I don't think it will have a major impact long term. However, I do think that a Biden win will actually make things a little easier for Ireland in the long term. And I'm not the only one that shares that view. A recent survey of Irish business leaders found that 90% of Irish business leaders believed that a Biden presidency would have a better outcome for Ireland long term. So I know this was a slightly different video than I normally do. I will be back to more property related videos going forward. But if you like this video, please give us a thumbs up. If you have any comments or thoughts on the US election in regards to how it will impact Ireland, or even if you've any thoughts on how the US economy will have an impact on Ireland, please put them in the comments below. Don't forget to like the video and make sure you are subscribing to the channel. And as always, thanks for watching.